Yesterday, I ran for president, went up against the petulance of candidates whose one defense was to segregate and build a fence. They disregard the common sense that global warming will dispense all of the creatures in silence so that they can keep their money. I'd hope they'd see the relevance of acting in benevolence with overwhelming evidence that times are changing. So instead of rearranging their words and arranging phrases, confusing minds like mazes, my goal is to take the stages and make the changes that humanity desperately needs. Eliminating the greeds of governments and easing the grip of stubbornness that suppress the will of those distressed because of displacement and overwhelming states of poverty is how I run my candidacy for the next person of authority that will lead this nation into an era of prosperity and bring a sense of clarity as to why we are all here. Let me be clear that this poetry is for Bernie, a man who wants the world to see that his decree is nothing more than a message of love. I've had enough of these sentences spewed by spin doctors in crude fashion. Let the passion of these lines fill your minds and your hearts so that we may start to fix the problems that we created. I am exasperated by the ignorance of our first world nation. A society whose relation to others is cloaked in hidden agendas and umbrella corporations that lure the countries of the world with a promised carrot that dangles just out of reach. Before I complete this speech, let me preach about the coming wave and ripples that we have made as we stand together and fight for a truer understanding of liberty. I believe that we, the people, have the power to change the current hour of humankind. Throughout the past, our eyes have been masked by the lies of those in charge, but now we charge forward toward a future that respects equanimity rather than the insanity of those fingers who can push a button and end our planet. Damn it, let us stop voting for puppets and noisy trumpets that don't actually say a thing, as they mock and jeer, making unclear statements as a foundation of their driving force and filibustering. When will you hear the ring and pick up the phone? For it is your soul on the other line, asking you to find a deeper truth before time runs out. And once you find it, help lead the youth into a brighter tomorrow, one filled with less sorrow, where we can stop borrowing ideas that were never actually solutions, but rather agendas made through clever elocutions and sneaky institutions that turned our heads away from what really matters and directed our attention toward the libels splattered across pages of media bought by those same companies who created the problem we were diverted from. Let us work toward renewables instead of perpetuating the pollutions that are the foundation of an unstable table for our economy. Sure, they brought us here, but where the powers that be want us to go is into a downward spiral that knows no depth. For when breath is sold in a can people truly breathe? I see no plan, and believe me, I've looked for one that spans across the globe, one I'd hoped would reveal a real and sustainable future. Alas, the masses who form mobs of ignorant slobs that look out only for themselves don't want to try it, as they consume a diet of genetically modified foods and programmed television that limits their vision of reality. I apologize for such stress as I've digressed into a tirade of brutality when really what we need is to understand the totality and impact of each and every choice and each and every voice so that when we finally break the shackles of ignorance, we can rejoice in the knowing that we were there when the world changed from despair into delight. Overnight this can happen. So until then, I'll keep rapping for my homie Bernie Sanders, while the others pander for votes with their millions that could have been used to save the earth or to give birth to a new era of hope and love for all its civilians as we recognize our connection and upon greater reflection make the conscious decision to live in harmony. So who will you vote for? For me, my nominee is my main man, Bernie. Vote, represent.